Hello, friends, and welcome to another support spotlight. Today, we're going to talk about Bane hard support. You can play him as a position 4, but it's like doable. There's better supports for that, though. So, position 5 is where he really shines. If you're picking Bane, you're getting a very strong laning support, and later on, you're going to be very good at ganks. You're not really a team fighter, but you have a very good single lockdown in a team fight to remove a key target. So, in that way, you're also good in team fights. Um, you also have a lot of skill cap with Nightmare. You can use it to save allies, use it to initiate. So the basics of Bane, pretty straightforward to pick up if you've never played Bane. But then there's a high skill cap with the Nightmare timings and saves. Lots of stuff you can do with that ability. So let's get into it. Ability-wise, you're in luck if you've never played Bane. It's very straightforward 90% of games. Bane is good at what we talked about, and he doesn't really flex. So he kind of does the same stuff. Level 1, you're going to take Brain Sap because it's a very good trading ability. You will do damage to the enemy and heal yourself. So laning stage will look something like this. You walk up, you right click with your short range but decent stats. They trade back. It looks even. Brain Sap. That's how you pull ahead. You do the damage, heal yourself. They run away because they don't want to lose the trade anymore. You get an extra couple auto attacks in. Now that they're whittled down, when you hit level 2 and you decide you can kill them, you Nightmare, you auto attack them a couple times. The 4 seconds is plenty of time for your carry to run over and join you if they want to. Nightmare ends, you both attacking, you brain sap, your carry does whatever they can do, stuns, damage, whatever, and that's usually how you can then set up the kill from whittling them down with brain sap into the setup with Nightmare at level 2. And that's why level 3 and 4, you're just going to kind of double down on that, increase the power of those spells, and that's what you're going to do in the laning stage. Alternatively, level 1, you could take Nightmare if you want to go for First Blood. So your team kind of smokes out maybe. You don't even have to smoke out, actually. Bane has increased night vision compared to most heroes. So he can actually see targets first, kind of wrap around trees to Nightmare them, get in that initial couple auto attacks while your team walks up, positions, gets the First Blood. Nightmare, kind of bad in the lane, though. Level 1, it's a very expensive spell, doesn't do much damage, can't use it for securing range creeps like Brain Sap. So if you think the First Blood is worth it, you can take Nightmare, and it's okay. But Brain Sap will feel better in most cases once you get to the laning stage. The other case you might take Nightmare is if the enemy is going to creep drag from the second wave onwards. Now, this is not very common in pubs, so you probably don't even have to worry about this. But if you think they're going to do it because their lane really sucks, you can Nightmare the target. Let's say like a Clockwork is trying to drag creeps. Nightmare the Clockwork, and then the creeps will ignore him, and they'll just return to the regular route. It's not such a problem that you don't have Brain Sap in lane, because if the enemy's trying to creep drag, it means they think their laning sucks, which means you probably don't even need Brain Sap. Maybe the carry matchup is very good for you. So you can do that because then it kind of just removes their only other option, which was to creep drag. Why don't we take Enfeeble early instead? I get this question quite a lot. Enfeeble reduces attack damage and reduces heal regen. So it makes their tangos worse, right? And then they have less damage, they can't get auto attacks. That's not wrong, but it's just not worth it. Enfeeble, you use it on someone, right? It lasts 8 seconds and has a cooldown of 28 seconds. So although it's cheap on mana, the uptime of the ability is not great. When you do use it, yes, they lose damage, and that part's kind of cool. They can still do other things, though. They can still do creep aggro tricks to pull the creeps towards them. They can use spells to get last hits, and they can still go for last hits. They just have less damage. But if, for example, they make two creeps get low at the same time, then your carry is probably going to go for the last hit, and then the enemy offlane is free to attempt a last hit. Usually in an 8-second period, there will not be that many last hits in the laning stage, especially early on. There's only like 1 or 2 in that time because creeps tend to kill 1 creep, then move to the next one. So 8 seconds is maybe 2 creeps, but might just be 1. So that part is it's not like you're guaranteeing a full wave every 28 seconds. It's like 1 creep maybe that the enemy does not last hit, which is not amazing. Plus, let's just switch the idea. I want them to stop last hitting. If you just harass a lot with Brain Sap and right clicks and get them down to half health, it's going to be very similar. where they're scared to walk up because you're going to hit them. Maybe you have level 2 now, you're going to Nightmare kill them. So they have to spend time away healing up, and because they're away, they are missing last hits. Because they're half health and not just missing damage, they're scared to walk in, do creep aggro tricks, scared to use spells maybe to get last hits. So you're accomplishing very similar things as an early level Enfeeble, like the idea behind that is, but you actually have kill threat with Brain Sap and Nightmare. So that's why you don't see Enfeeble very often, but you might see it at level 4 if the enemy has a very high regen based hero. Someone like Huskar, Io, Alchemist, Timbersaw. That is when you might see Enfeeble level 4, because if you don't get Enfeeble level 4, sneak peek, this is typically the skill build you might see, kind of like fleshing it out here. Enfeeble gets maxed last. In fact, sometimes people don't even take it at level 8. They finish up Brain Sap and then take it even later, like level 11, maybe level 10 instead of the talent. So if you need it early because of an Alchemist, Timbersaw, whatever, you don't really want to give up on points of Nightmare. So you have to take it at level 4 after this Brain Sap and then catch back up on Nightmare. Even though I just said you don't want to give up too many points of Nightmare, but you're giving up 1 for this Enfeeble because you want 2 points in Brain Sap for the laning stage typically. This just gives you more just more power in the laning stage. I wouldn't skip the 2nd point in Brain Sap. But Enfeeble, you can typically skip to later. The reason you max Nightmare first is because the duration goes up and the cast range goes up and the cooldown goes down. So pretty much everything is improving for you. The damage is also going up. That part doesn't really matter as much. You really like the cast range because at level 1, it sucks at 425. It's very short. But at 650, it is doable. It is workable. So you really want that because this is your high skill cap utility ability, save targets, initiate, all sorts of stuff all around Nightmare. You don't really need to max Brain Sap because it's not really what Bane is about. You're not here to do a lot of damage and farm quickly. Brain Sap is a single target ability. It's not going to help you do fast farming stuff. Yes, it might help you get kills, but it goes from 150 to 300 damage. So if you're looking for damage, the extra Nightmare duration and damage will cover some of that damage, plus extra time for you to auto attack. It's kind of the same damage as Brain Sap. Now you're not going to get the heal, but you're going to have better increased save potential with Nightmare for your teammates. And that is what a support's about. Not usually about save me. You're here to save your teammates. And that's what Nightmare is good for. Brain Sap, not very good for that. So this is the skill build you will see most games. Enfeeble, the early point at 8 is just useful because it's fairly cheap. You just throw it on in a fight. But you don't really need to max it compared to Brain Sap because, I don't know, it's the main thing about it is the cooldown going down, but usually when you're around this level, you're still not involved in a bunch of fights and need to repeatedly cast Enfeeble. It's as you get later on that you will have more chances to use Enfeeble and will need the lower cooldown. So around here, you're still typically involved in smaller skirmishes, maybe 1 or 2 big team fights, and that's where extra damage and heal can still be useful. So I would typically max Enfeeble last. You want your ult whenever you can because it's just practically a free kill. It's so strong. Use it for pickoffs, use it to get that key target in team fights. Always take it. Talents, magic resist or armor, take whichever makes sense in the game. If there's a lot of magic resist. A lot of physical, take armor. Level 15, usually Brain Sap is the safe way to go, but if they have a very mana-dependent hero like Medusa or some intelligence mid-hero who's been really popping off, then you can go ahead and grab the extra mana. For level 20, Nightmare cooldown, we've been talking about how Nightmare is so awesome, so just having it at a higher uptime, lower cooldown tends to be really good. 25, I would recommend the 5-second Fiend's Grip duration. You're not really about damage as a support, so this is not great. The heal's kind of cool, but in the late game, you can kind of get burst in 1 second anyhow, so you're not going to get multiple Brain Saps off usually. Instead, the extra, now 11-second Fiend's Grip, kind of crazy. You can sit in trees, wait for someone to split push, Fiend's Grip them. Your team can teleport in and walk from a tower and still have time to kill a hero. So there's a lot more pick-off potential, which is very important in the late game. In team fights, if you catch someone a little off on their own, you can just remove them from the fight for a while your team takes the rest of the fight. I think there's more potential with the extra Fiend's Grip duration than there is from the extra Brain Sap. But sometimes I've seen this taken, especially if there's just so many ways to cancel Fiend's Grip for whatever reason, then the Brain Sap damage makes more sense. Item-wise, it's straightforward as well. Starting items, you want two things. You want mana and you want right-click trading kind of items. So 1 mango is kind of the minimum. You'll typically see 2, maybe 3, because your spells, the Brain Sap and Nightmare combo, very expensive, but powerful in the right situations. So you want these mangoes so that you can use them as needed, kind of trade with the Brain Sap, and only when necessary, use Nightmare. You want Iron Branches and or Fairy Fires for that extra right click, because we said you're going to do a lot of this like right click trading and then Brain Sap. So any extra stats you can get to increase your damage is really nice. So you attack 10 times and you get 4 extra damage. You've done 40 extra damage in those 10 auto attacks. So it really adds up since you're doing so many. The extra stats also help you have kind of better trading potential, because Bane kind of lives life on the edge. He gets low, Brain Saps. So any extra stats and the burst heals from Fairy Fire help him in these small trades in the early laning stage. You're still a support though, so you're still going to get like stick, salve, sentries, things like that. And if you ever need like a stick, you can swap some of these out for that. In the early game, you want Arcane Boots most of the time because mana represents health with Brain Sap. So you don't really need Tranquil Boots. As long as you have mana, you can Brain Sap random creeps, things like that, to heal yourself up. Stick or Wand if you need to. But from there, you kind of get the Aether Lens as fast as you can, because the further back you can cast Nightmare and Fiend's Grip, the better. Everyone is going to try to kill you once you start using that, so you want to be as far back as possible. It'll help with your mana issues as well. So Aether Lens is almost non-negotiable. It is always being picked up on Bane. There's very few cases where he won't get Aether Lens. After that, you get Tranquil Boots to make use of your brown boots. Even though I said you have the heal from Brain Sap, the extra move speed and heal from Tranquil Boots is nice, just so you don't have to use Brain Sap. You can just kind of like run around the map faster, get in position faster. Tranquil Boots, very nice. After that, you kind of get whatever you need for the game, but if nothing is sticking out to you, Glimmer Cape is a very good option because you can use it while casting Fiend's Grip to make yourself go invisible. And because your goal is to be so far back in the fight, behind trees, up cliffs, whatever, only a few enemy heroes will be able to jump you, usually the cores. And the cores are the ones that fill up all their slots and don't want to have to carry dust and detection for your Glimmer Cape. The supports are going to have it, but they might not be the right support to jump in really deep and catch Bane. So it makes it very awkward for the enemy Storm Spirit who wants to zip and kill you before you get to cast all your spells. You're invis and he doesn't want to carry detection. So Glimmer Cape is a very nice save. Plus, because you're getting the extra cast range, you will actually be able to use Glimmer Cape. Whereas like the short cast range makes it a little awkward for anyone who's not getting Aether Lens. Besides the typical support items, you can get Aghanims. That is something that dropped off since TI10, where Ags was purchased a bit more on Bane. The tempo of the game just went up a bit more, so it's harder for him to get Ags. He would rather spend less money on items that have more immediate impact, like Aether Lens and Glimmer, rather than build up this long Aghanims scepter. You could also get a BKB instead of an Ags. They kind of do the same. Ags is greedier and more aggressive. It's going to lower the cooldown and provide those illusions, but those illusions can also be stopped. So if your goal is to literally just remove one hero with Fiend's Grip and they don't have ways to pierce BKB, then you can get the BKB to guarantee that even at the lowest cooldown, you have 6 seconds of Fiend's Grip on one target. They are not doing anything as long as I'm BKB'd. If that is your goal, you can build that. You don't really see Drum, Solar Crest, things like that. He is all about this Aether Lens. And because he has terrible farming, because he is all about single target stuff, he doesn't tend to get like a bunch of fancy expensive items. He only gets a few, and so he's got to get the Aether. He's got to get... It's really the Aether. The Aether is the main component. The other, you can script Tranquils if you need. You can skip the Glimmer. But it's this extra cast range, this neutral items. Anytime this Keen Optic, this Psychic Headband, Telescope, anytime they're in the game, you're going to grab those. You just want more cast range to be way back Nightmare from afar, save allies, initiate from afar, Fiend's Grip from afar. That is Bane's game. That is it. Thank you for watching. If you want more information on Bane, I made a Bane video during TI10. It's honestly not too different. Enfeeble got changed a little bit, and Aghanim Scepter has dropped off a little bit, but everything else is kind of the same about Bane. So if you want more information, go check out that video. I'll link it in the description. Thanks for watching. Good luck out there.